Guess what, friends? It's Goosebumps time! Welcome to Recap Revisit, where I take a second look at a piece of media that I've previously recapped. The link to that recap will be down in the description. This month, we're taking a second look at the very first Goosebumps book. Welcome to Dead House. Every month, the Recap Revisit will be chosen by Patreon members. This month was chosen by Dove. Thank you, Dove. So to get into this real quick, this was the first ever Goosebumps book, published in July of 1992, and the synopsis reads, "Look alive! Amanda and Josh think the old house they have just moved into is weird, spooky, possibly haunted, and the town of Dark Falls is pretty strange too. But their parents don't believe them. You'll get used to it, they say. Go out and make some new friends." So Amanda and Josh do, but these new friends are not exactly what their parents had in mind, because they want to be friends. ... Forever. That's a pretty accurate synopsis. Sometimes these can be a bit misleading, but this one's pretty accurate. So we're going to start with a quick recap before we move on to sections. So our first section is going to be my own quick little summary here. Our main character is Amanda. She's 12. She has an annoying little brother, Josh. He's 11. Their family inherits a creepy old house from a relative they've never heard of in a town called Dark Falls, 4 hours away from where they live now. They move to the house, and almost immediately, before they even move in, Amanda starts seeing strange children in the house. Her parents don't believe her. Amanda and Josh meet some of the kids in town when they're not creeping into their house, and all these kids keep telling them that they used to live in their house when they first moved to town. Their dog Petey runs off, and as they're chasing him through the graveyard, Amanda notices several gravestones with the names of their new friends on them. Their parents don't come home from a dinner party one night, so they go looking for them in the dark, and run into their friend Ray, and discover that shining a halogen flashlight at him makes him melt. The real estate agent who got them into the house comes by, and he tells them that their parents might be in the local amphitheater, which is by the cemetery. They go there and find out that their parents are being held hostage by the entire town, who have been turned into vampire, zombie, undead somethings by an accident at the chemical factory some years earlier. It's now sunrise, and since the light makes these undead people melt, Amanda and Josh are able to push over a tree that's hanging over the amphitheater and let the light come shining in and melt everyone, rescuing their parents. Sometime later, Amanda and her family pack up to move out of the house, but as they're leaving, Amanda tells her dad to stop the car so that she can go take a look at the house one last time, and she sees a new family moving in, and the real estate agent, who apparently did not die, standing on the porch, getting ready to show the new people the house. So presumably this whole story is going to happen all over again to this new family moving in. What are you gonna do? Next up, we're going to talk about some R.L. Stine tropes. These are things that Bob just can't help himself. He has to put it in all or most or a large portion of his books. First up, fat shaming. We fat shame the dad quite a bit here. For instance, Josh and Amanda aren't happy about moving, Dad explained, tucking his shirt tail in. Dad is a little overweight, and his shirts always seem to be coming untucked. Okay, a one-off, not so bad. Second example. Dad tucking in the shirt again. Why don't you run outside and tell Josh about the house, Dad suggested, tucking in the front of his shirt. That's been established that he tucks his shirt in a lot. But example number 3 is what really pushes it over the top. Dad climbed behind the wheel, moving the seat back to make room for his big stomach. Damn it, Bob. Why? Trope number 2. Inappropriate screaming. This is people who scream when normal people wouldn't scream. They would yell, maybe raise their voice, shout, cried. Any of these words would be a better choice than scream. So in the first example, the dog is in the back seat howling, And Mom screams, "Can't you shut him up?" That'll calm the dog down. Screaming. Example number 2 of this also involves the dog. At this point, the dog has run away because these idiots don't put him on a leash. And Josh, the little brother, screams that no, he wants to go look for Petey right now. He's 11, so maybe he screams that, but it seems like quite the escalation. Trope number 3 is just your typical Stine cliffhanger chapter end. He does this a lot in Goosebumps, Fear Street, his point horror books. It's not as egregious in this book, but there are still a few in there. None of the ones in this book are true fake outs, but I included it because it's a thing he does in most of his books, and it's here a little bit. Trope number 4 is the annoying little brother. Whether it's Goosebumps or Fear Street, some of the point horrors, he always puts annoying younger siblings, usually a brother. It's just a very Stine thing to do. Oh, related to that, I should have put down terrible parenting. I didn't write that one down, but the parents are terrible throughout this entire book, and that's just a very Bob thing to do. I'm calling him Bob because the RL stands for Robert Lawrence, so I'm not going to call him Robert. He used to write joke books under the name Jovial Bob Stine, so we can call him Bob. Stine trope number 5 is something I've noticed he does more with the Fear Streets, but it was still in this Goosebumps quite a bit. And that is people saying, "huh?" as an exclamation of surprise, and they usually either cry or utter, "huh?" It's just something he does a lot, and the way it's written, it never seems natural, like something someone would actually do, enough that it really stands out as odd. Our next section is things that make you go, "what?" And these are things that just make you stop because they don't make much sense and you try to figure them out and can't really come up with an answer. Okay, so first thing that makes you go, "what?" The real estate agent's name is Compton. As in straight outta? The second thing that made me stop and do a double take was apparently Compton Dawes, our real estate agent, has driven the family to the house from the real estate office in their own car. You would think they would take separate cars and just follow him there. It's very strange to me to have this stranger real estate agent, drive you in your own car to the house. The third thing that made me go, "what?" is the fact that apparently people think it's strange that Amanda and her best friend are best friends because they look so different. I guess Stine thinks that people who look different can't be friends. I think some people were surprised that Kathy and I had stayed such good friends. For one thing, we look so different. I'm tall and thin and dark, and she's fair-skinned with long blonde hair and a little chubby. Oh no, is that more fat shaming? But we've been friends since preschool and best friends ever since 4th grade. Also, for one thing, there's no second thing. What? Usually when you say for one thing, there's more than one thing. You say for one thing to differentiate it from the other things. There's no other things. Thing number 4 that makes you go, "what?" So Amanda has a dream that involves her and her family eating bones, and the bones are described as green. Gray, green, green. Bob thinks that bones are green, I guess. Did he see this? Is this what he's thinking of? This is not really what bones look like. Bob, this is not a real skull. This isn't what they look like. He's gonna be my little buddy now. So the 5th thing that makes you go, "what?" Guys, this is the longest section because Bob is unfathomable sometimes. my brain runs up against a brick wall reading his books all the time. There's a girl named Karen who tells Amanda that she used to live in her house. Amanda reacts with surprise, although Amanda had already been told this information 2 pages earlier. She reacts as if it's new information. I don't know if Bob just forgot that he had already written that or what. Maybe that's more of a continuity error, but I'm including it. The 6th thing, I'm going to run out of fingers here, the 6th thing that makes you go what, is the parents go to a dinner party after eating dinner with the kids. Who eats dinner before they go to a dinner party? The 7th thing that makes you go what? 7. It's so many. But the 7th thing is sunrise is apparently at 2 a.m. in this town because the kids are out, it's full dark. The last time they've looked at the clock, it was 2 a.m. And then the sun starts coming up. Not only coming up, but it's already over the treetops. So I don't know. I don't know how Bob thinks sunrise works. Number 8 on things that make you go, what? This might just be a me thing, but I could not figure out how this old gnarled tree is positioned over the amphitheater. So beside the cemetery, there's this amphitheater dug into the ground. It goes down with in a circle with benches. It's protected from the sun. Apparently it's very shady in there. The tree is described as being kind of bent over it with all the roots coming out of the ground behind it. So as far as I can tell, the tree is hanging over the amphitheater, putting it in the shade. These kids decide to push it over in order to make the sun flood into the amphitheater and melt all the undead zombie vampire. That's my next point. I don't know what these people actually are. So they're going to push the tree over because it's already halfway out of the ground, and they think that this will flood the amphitheater with light. I can't figure out how this tree is positioned because from everything described, it seems like they're going to push it into the amphitheater, killing their parents who are being held hostage in there. But no, they push it over to the side, apparently, somehow. This might just be a me thing. If anyone has any idea, if you've read this book and this makes more sense to you, explain it to me. With diagrams, preferably, because I can't figure it out. I watched the TV episode, hoping it would shed some light on this situation. The TV episode is so different from the book, it's barely recognizable as the same story. So that was no help at all. The amphitheater, the tree, none of it's in there. I just couldn't figure this out, guys. Which brings us to our last point. I also can't figure out what these people are supposed to be. If they're vampires, zombies, some other generic undead. Again, the TV episode wasn't a lot of help. They're sort of presented as vampires at first, but then they're more like zombies, and that's how it is in the book too. They seem like some sort of zombie, but they don't like the light, like vampires. But also, flashlights can kill them. The light from flashlights, not like beating them to death with it. Yeah, it's said that they need fresh blood in the town once a year. It's unclear whether that is metaphorical or literal. I don't know if they're vampires or zombies, revenants, some other form of undead. It's very vague and left up to interpretation. I'm gonna settle on zombie. Our next section is lessons. Things that we've learned from this book. The first lesson is, beware of creepy houses inherited from relatives you've never heard of. Pretty self-explanatory. It never turns out well. The second lesson is, put your goddamn dog on a leash. There are leash laws for a reason. In this book, they have never put their dog on a leash before. He keeps running off, runs through the cemetery, and that's how Amanda finds out that all of their friends are dead. Poor Petey dies too. Stine can't help but kill the dog. Yeah, Just put your goddamn dog on a leash. There are leash laws for reasons. Lesson 3. Believe your kids when they tell you that they're seeing someone in the house. What kind of parent doesn't believe their kid when the kid says, "Hey, Mom, Dad, there's a boy in my room. I see someone looking through the window. There was a girl at the top of the stairs." These parents don't believe the kid at all. Somebody could have broken in, and they're just going to be like, "Nah, you're imagining it. We'll all be robbed and murdered in our beds because we ignored you." Lesson number 4. Be worried when multiple people keep telling you they used to live in your house, especially when it's a house that you've inherited from a relative who presumably lived there for quite some time. It's very odd that multiple children in this town, multiple 11, 12, 13-year-olds, all used to live in your house. Little slight red flag there. Number 5, our final lesson learned from this book. Sell the creepy house. Don't move there. Sell it. I know the story couldn't happen if they did that, but real life lesson from this book for 9-year-olds. Sell the creepy house. Don't move there. So our last section here is just some final thoughts and conclusions. Ways my opinion differs this time around from the first time I recapped it. So originally I gave this book 3 stars on Goodreads. I've upped that to 4 stars. Goodreads doesn't let you give half stars or quarter stars. I think I would put it more at a 3.75 maybe. I might put it at 4 if we're only grading Goosebumps books. It's not the best in the series, but it set a good tone for the series as a whole, what was to come after this, even though there are some much better books, in my opinion, on down the line a little ways. If you can see them here, these are 3 of my favorites right here. We've got One Day at Horrorland, The Haunted Mask, and Night of the Living Dummy. So overall, Welcome to Dead House is one of the better Goosebumps. It really set the tone for the series to come. Unfortunately, it also did one of the things that Bob does all the time, whether it's Fear Street, Goosebumps, Point Horror. He killed the dog. He always kills the dog. R.I.P. Petey. You deserved better owners. You deserved owners who knew what a leash was and gave a damn about you. Alright friends, that about wraps up this recap revisit. What do you think of Goosebumps? What's your favorite one? Let me know in the comments. So Recap Revisit is a monthly series, with each revisit chosen by a patron over on Patreon. Thank you to Dove for this month's recap, and she has also chosen for December. I know this is December, this is coming out a little late. It's fine. The end of December will be Sleigh Bells by Joe Gibson, and that one is a wild ride. I have a theory that Joe Gibson is an alien who does not understand the Earth things, because all of her characters seem to be trying to figure out Earth culture as they go and just getting it hilariously wrong. As always, thanks to my patrons. Thank you, Dove, for choosing this recap revisit. And if you would like an opportunity to choose a book or movie for me to revisit in a recap here, you can do that on Patreon. Thanks for your support. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. And this is not what real bones look like. Okay. Don't make the same mistake Bob did. All right. See y'all later.